live, go live. That is a warm-up. It's too bad we missed my rendition of, your rendition. Whose rendition was? See, it's a classic singer thing. As soon as I'm the singer, it becomes my band. You're doing the only complicated, band, valuable thing. Yeah.
Does all this work. The person comes in, doesn't even really, hasn't practiced it ever, reading off of the sheet.
You were doing this masterful playing that you've practiced like crazy. I come in with no knowledge and it becomes my band. Sorry. It happens to everyone. It's the tyranny of being a star.
Don't blame me.
Speaking of which, did you open mic last night?
No, we didn't make it. We didn't make it in time.
Sorry. Speaking of which, sources of shame and do you feel sadness about that?
I feel some sadness. Yeah, I really want to do it. I feel like this is what I need to do. I have this show coming up at the end of the month.
That's great. You have a show.
I haven't been a show. Yeah,
that's great. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. The show is gonna happen.
The great Anna Fogues.
Any good?
It was the great Anna Fogues who quoth this idea to me of putting like a show of some sort on the books before you're ready, because damn it, you're gonna get ready by then.
It's smart, but it's really, this time is causing me a greater amount of existential angst than usual, because usually I've been working with people and I sort of like, there's just a bunch of material, and then the question is, okay, you like, you have this material, and then like, what do you need to squeeze into the gaps and whatever. It's like most of the work is sort of done, and it's just sort of figuring out how it fits together. But this feels completely open.
Well, just as a quick reflection, I feel like you said greater amount of existential angst than usual, but I feel like usual is pretty solid amount of existential angst.
Yeah. So this is really bad.
Yes, this is really bad. But but that's part of it, right? And then you get wrapped up, and then you get and you're angry, and why am I even doing this? Why do I torture myself? Yeah. And then you go through it and you perform, and it's fantastic. Or even if it's not fantastic, then at the end you're like, God, I'm glad I did that. I want to do it again. This is the cycle of torture we put ourselves through. That's beautiful and wonderful too.
Beautiful and wonderful. And everyone who loves us, everyone who loves me, sees all the stress that goes into it and says to me, why are you, this is what you want to do, and you don't have to do it.
Yeah, okay, but that's easy. That's not that helpful. Everyone who loves
it's
Chris.
Not helpful. It's not helpful.
That's not that helpful.
It doesn't. That doesn't make me feel understood.
No. Yeah, like you don't have to do it. It's like
somebody probably said that 4 years ago, and I'm still carrying it. It's not
because I was just gonna say, I bet the people who really know you don't question why you're doing it. They just say
they don't question why I'm doing it. But I do think that I feel some sort of puzzlement at the torture I feel. Right. At how torturous it is. I think a lot of people don't quite get it, and like I'm wrestling with questions of like, who am I?
Yeah.
What is I? And anybody else, they're like, you're you.
Yeah.
It seems so simple to anybody else.
Well, it happens in all things. Like in work, it's called the imposter syndrome. Maybe it's called that in creative stuff too. But I was just talking to someone who's just amazing yesterday, and who's just like, oh, I'm not worthy. And it's just like, from me outside, you're a star, and it's just, it's you. That's who you are. This is part of your DNA. So of course. And I don't think people are that interested in the torture. That's my perception.
They're not interested. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like they're interested in the result. They're up for it. They're supportive. But
I think I am. It's occurred to me, part of the torture is actually, I think we can move beyond the torture to what's the key, what's the reason it's torturous. The reason it's torturous is because you have to make a bunch of decisions, and it's really hard to know how to make those decisions, like just in terms of like, what are the songs you're going to do, and that's important because like the order, like you have to.
Is that where a lot of your torture comes from? Is the sequencing and choosing?
What I'm realizing is that is, I think that's a lot of my torture. But worse than that, though, it's that somehow a question comes up, but because I'm so fragile, that the torture comes, and then I forget about the problem I was trying to solve. So I feel like this is actually a step forward where I'm recognizing that, like, the detail that sent me into a tailspin is that I don't know the answer to this question. But the question is a question it's fairly tangible and answerable and testable and all of these things, so that you can work through it if I could step out of the panic and just get to the point of like, okay, let's make the decisions, let's put some sort of plan down, and then look at that and ask yourself, like, does this make sense? Is this building in the right way or whatever? But too often I think I lose the task at hand.
It's so true. Sometimes I will pull in Rebecca for a question. Sometimes there'll be these streaks where I just am pulling her in for too many things, and it's just the act of thought partnering off someone else.
Yeah.
And if someone sensible or someone who sort of gets it and is sort of like, oh, well, between those two options, I would go this way. And it's just like, it's like the greatest gift when someone gives you that kind of direction.
I know.
And it might have been a decision you could have made yourself, but for whatever reason, you had tied yourself in knots, and then you articulate it out loud, they reflect it back, and then you're off and running. Seems like such a key part of the...
Well, but the thing that kills me is just what you just said about, when maybe you're asking Rebecca too much, where it gets to the point where she's happy. I feel this way with Katrina too. Like, she's happy to answer 3 questions. When it gets into 7, she starts being like, all right, dude. And then, but like for me, what I really want is the thought partner. And on about 150, somehow I turn it into 150 life or death sort of decisions that need to be made for every little thing. It's like, you think I should say something like this? But okay, well, now that you've answered that,
the comma after 3 words or the comma after 7 words?
You think I should? And so, I mean, that's
why. And it's a decision tree, right? It's a decision tree.
Exactly.
And
that's why I envy.
But we don't even know, it's like we don't even understand it from a high altitude enough to warn them to be like, listen, I've got 140 questions. It's just like, I've got one question. They answer that and you're like, oh,
in 150 parts.
Yeah. 150 parts.
But you didn't know that. You didn't know that. You asked the one and that led to the next obvious question. Right. But this is why my ultimate envy, I think, is the television writer room. Because that's all it is. That's what they're doing all the time.
But don't you think they also then have to go their separate ways and write for a while?
But then they come together before they put the show together. I mean, yes, I like going my separate way. I like doing like coming up with a bunch of stuff, and then I want to bring it for like a serious hashing.
It does sound really great, although it probably, if you're in them, you're like, I hate so and so. He always kills my best stuff, and like the eyebrow. Someone raises their eyebrow and there's probably all the dysfunctions. But it is a great conceptual
really
thing.
Interesting point. I wonder how many writers' rooms are just like sort of, I want to say almost like frictionless, and like everybody just like respects and loves each other, and how many are...
Zero?
Zero? Is it zero?
I would bet it's zero.
That's a really interesting question.
I would bet zero.
I have a question to ask somebody if I ever meet somebody who's part of a writer's room.
If you're a frictionless, everybody appreciates each other human, I don't think you end up in a writer's room.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. But okay, frictionless, you want friction. You want
some kind of friction.
There's a certain point where I think that it goes from friction you appreciate to friction that you still, I don't know, this freaking guy who just said this thing and just always trying to track me down to competition, and like, that's interesting. So what you working on?
I didn't think we were quite done with your show, but well, also, what are you working on can be it could be like just such a dagger of a question. It's like a sword right through the gut if you're not ready for it. You know,
right? That's true. That's true. How's your screenplay coming? That thing you were so excited about last week. You said that you thought you'd have 60 more pages by this week. How's it going?
Right. And I'm done. I'm still working on my projects, man. I'm in the long slog. I am very familiar with this. I'm very aware right now of this phenomenon where it's easy to collect. I think this is especially video, but I'm having it in audio too. Easy to collect footage and collect pieces, and then the post-production is just, the backlog is where it all goes to slog out and make me feel bad.
To make you feel bad.
And I think that's the whole idea. That's why podcasts are so great in a way, because you record it and then maybe you want to edit a couple things out and then you ship it. But of course, I'm making my podcast a lot harder for myself by having several camera angles and recording for longer and figuring like I'll go back and just edit it afterwards. And now there it is. So that's my task today is to try to not make a huge 8-hour post-production project out of it or a 20-hour, but instead just try to see how far I can get in 1 hour.
But why? Okay, but what if that framing right there is shame-inducing? Is like naturally
shame has been induced, man. I'm all in the shame. I'm swimming. I'm backstroking in a pool of shame.
But this whole idea of like saying, why can't the thing that takes a long time, I'll just do it in less time.
I see.
How does that not set you up for?
Well, I've gone back and forth. Yeah, with this, it's just like, you know what? This is my process. Just submit to my process. I'm like a thorough whatever, and I go through every ounce of footage, and so I've done that too. I've done that with the TV pilot project, and I've really thorough'd out and put a bunch of hours in, and in a way that's nice because I'm just submitting to it, but I'm still not close to having a product, So actually, also working with the great Foganator, she helped me realize that, what I really should do instead of making the whole episode is just make a teaser, because that's kind of what I would want to show people anyway. So instead of making a whole episode, doing all those like really difficult decisions about storyline or whatever,
just do teasers.
Just do a teaser, so give people the flavor of it, because that's going to be probably 80% or 90% of the people that ever watch anything from it will watch the 2-minute teaser.
I think that's really smart. Did you say you talked to somebody brilliant yesterday? Is that part of this? No.
But it almost was like you were hinting because I talked to you yesterday. It's almost like did you say you talked to somebody
brilliant? Was it about that thing we talked about?
Is there anything that someone said maybe at 2:43 p.m.?
I can send you the transcript. I happen to know you were talking about it. 2:43.
But you did that funny sword play to get out of talking about the show, or to turn the tables, or maybe it wasn't to get out of it, but we're putting it back on you. So the show, this torture show, you feel less moored than normal because you feel like you have less of an active set going. You've got your entire backlog probably of songs that you've ever done that you could pull out.
Backlog, and I did have I worked this morning a little bit, and one of my sort of
there it is, top knot. We saw the top knot.
Oh shit! I was supposed to keep that hidden. That's just for the backstage people.
On stage, I never turn my head.
Hey guys, how's it going?
I'll
see you later. But one of the things I decided, which is sort of like a shift for me, but I through many thoughts, I thought I'm gonna mainly use this guitar for this show.
Yeah, why is that significant?
I used to always use this guitar when I was in rock and roll bands.
She's beauty. Wait, you can't put a guitar on your lap and not play anything from it.
Oh no, I'm not gonna play anything. You're not gonna play anything.
You cannot. Okay, just to tell you, you did the whole motion. You bring a guitar slowly over. You set it on your lap, and then it's supposed to start going. Ding, 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 ding,
Let's
ding,
talk
ding,
about
ding,
the show.
One time, ding, 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 ding. You cannot do that whole motion and not play a guitar. That's
so funny. I think to myself when I see someone doing that motion, I'm thinking, no, please don't.
I was just getting rocked into storytelling mode. I was waiting to.
Yeah. Okay, so I used to use this guitar in all my rock shows, and I did a couple of solo shows many years ago, and I brought this guitar, and I sort of did this sort of fun
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you actually do this to sort of a Johnny Cash ding 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 and tell the story over a that's the form here.
That's what people are looking for?
Yeah.
This is sort of got a mood to it.
Yeah.
Well, one day when I was a little bit younger.
So can you actually do that and focus enough to keep telling me the story?
I'm a little distracted by whether or not this feeling of this is the right feeling
Yeah,
for
the
the
song.
story.
If you've got the right music bed,
Yeah,
totally.
I think I could if I was
Okay,
so yeah, so
you don't have to do it. This has
I
been
know.
fun already. It's,
But you know what? This is a good idea. It's a good point. What you're saying is that when I this is a good note for the show
yeah,
as
good
you
note.
as
Yeah.
part of my unofficial writers room is this like if there's going to be yammering, like yeah,
Oh yeah.
make some musical stuffs.
If you could do that and still yammer freely, I think it's just all
It's worth
yammering is more
testing. I think
interesting.
I can. I think I've done that many times, but now that you ask it, I don't know. And now that you've asked me to do it, I sort of froze up. So I feel like I'm going to need to
That's
put it
the
to the test.
well-worn troubadour. I feel like it's just like it's like a security blanket. It's like
Yeah.
someone nice and gently but firmly holding your shoulders and just being like, it's gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel that way about a song in a way. That's why I was thinking that stand-up comedians are the ultimate performers because it's just them and a microphone.
Yeah, yeah,
And whereas if you're playing songs, you really are falling back on a very,
yeah.
very scripted thing.
Right.
And of course, stand-up comedy is scripted too most of the time. But anyway, so I used to play this guitar, and then I started playing more of the acoustic guitar and stuff, and playing more folky kind of stuff. And then I was like, what if I were to play this? And I just had a little bit more of a sonic template to play with as a solo, as a solo thing. Maybe that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And then I was working on this song there that I've played that I recorded, and it's a multi-track thing. And I was like, I'd like to do this thing that is sort of on my second guitar part, but how can I do that? And as I was as I started working on it, it occurred to me. I was like, oh, maybe I could. And I was like, sort of wrestling through, like, how could I sort of play the lead and the
Mm.
supporting stuff at the same time? And as I was working that through, it had a strong feeling like, oh, this is the work. This is the work that actually makes for a good show.
Right.
Because when you do that, you put in that effort to like make something work at another level.
Yeah.
It's rewarding, and I mean, it's just
Yeah.
more interesting. Whereas I think too often maybe I sort of feel like writing a song is like a marathon,
Right.
and I get to the finish line and I want to collapse.
Yeah.
But maybe the performers that you really love to see who've been at this for a long time, they do that marathon and they collapse. But then they keep playing, and so then over time they realize, oh, then they sort of like make it work. They just add all kinds of little stuff that make it just bring it much
Yeah.
more alive. And that's what makes an audience member think to themselves, oh, this isn't just somebody banging out a song.
Yeah. Well, and it strikes me as so true that that work happens once you have a show happening that you have to play towards, because it never happens if you're like, oh, I should probably get to that song and work out how to play it live. It's not going to happen. But once you have a show, you're going to work towards it. And it also makes me remember, it's probably been 2 decades since I've had a band that was regularly doing shows. So this is in the past for me, but I still really remember that sort of energy of we've got a show and you work out some cool stuff and it's awesome. Hopefully you get to the point where it's awesome and you play a show and it's like, that was so cool. And then if you're playing regular shows, you can, and I certainly have in the past, gotten into a rut where then you start replaying the thing that was so cool for show number 1, you play it for show number 2 and show number 3, and eventually it gets really stale. It's it's sort of like overdone vegetables a little bit. And there's something about, I guess I don't see you doing that. Like every show brings a whole new fresh angst for you of like, I gotta figure it out, and maybe you're working through stuff. But that torture is probably a sign that you're doing healthy creative work as opposed to just stamping out the same stuff that happened last time.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. One of the benefits of playing locally, and generally to sort of like you feel like the same people are going to be there at the next show, and you sort of feel like, okay, this can't be the same as the last show. And
Yeah.
I sort of feel like, I had a realization today too, not today, but recently, talking to Katrina, because Katrina and I are singing for this. We're singing for a memorial. Katrina's uncle who died and asked us to perform for the memorial, which was really a big honor. And Katrina and I haven't really sung at all together for over a year, probably. So then we've been playing now again and trying to prepare for this thing, and it's just so quickly came together, and it's just like, man, this damn it, like this is the best thing I've ever been a part of.
It
It's just
is
me singing with her, doing harmonies, learning songs. Like I feel like
so
we
special.
pulling songs out of just like, oh yeah, we used to do this, and then
Yeah.
cranking it out and being like, damn, that's a winner. We got a winner there. And
Yeah.
it just like we got a bunch of songs, and so it's been great singing with her. And what was I gonna say? That oh yeah, one of the big stresses when she and I were playing together and we were playing out some, is that we're like, most of the people that are around us have heard us do these songs at least 5 times. And so you get a list of 20 songs you can do well, but they're 20 songs that everybody who has heard them 5 times. It's just like, shit, we got to come up with something that's a little bit fresh and a little bit different, because otherwise this is boring. But then what realize that I feel like you do need to sort of bring something new and fresh to sort of establish the show, to sort of say like, we're not just phoning it in, like this is a new moment. But then there gets to a point after you've established, after everybody's comfortable, then everybody wants to hear all the songs that you've played 20 times before. Because then it's just like, I love that.
Exactly.
But if you start with it, I feel like it doesn't.
Interesting.
At least that's my.
I don't know
that's
if
my.
I don't know if
feeling.
I think you're right that I think for the main thing you're right about is people want to hear the songs over and over again. Like you want to hear the songs that you love. You don't actually want to go to your favorite artist's concert and hear a bunch of new stuff that's like awful. You're like, play me the stuff that I love.
I just came up with this last night. Oh god.
Oh god, good lord. I mean, yeah, you politely golf clap through the new stuff, but I think you're right that there's a mix. There's a mix where you mostly want to hear the stuff that you love, but you do probably want some trickle or small open tap of new stuff that's going to become something that you love. And I think that mix is about right. Just hearing you say it, just like one new thing, one new song, and the rest of it, and then over a series of shows, you've got a constant infusion of one new song. That also seems like a very manageable pipeline of like, okay, we got a new show. What's our new song for this time?
Yeah, that was always my theory. Always was that every show should have one new song.
Yeah, that's cool.
Even if it's a cover, even if you have to.
Because I just don't think early on in that story you sort of said, oh, we're all the same people. We gotta keep it fresh. They're all sick of it. I just don't think that's true. Like if I've heard you guys play a lot of songs. I want to hear them all again.
That's funny. Thank you. That's the other thing that's funny about all the stress that I'm feeling right now, because depending on Katrina's appetite for how much she wants to do at the show at the end of the month, it sort of completely solves this problem. So it's a really weird sort of mixture of sort of like, okay, I got to prepare all this stuff, but it's all going to completely go out of the window as soon as she's like feeling game. And then we're just like, and because that's what people want.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. You and Katrina is so good. I know this is stressful for you because it's not as viable, but it's just one. If you say you guys haven't played together for a year, then that's just awesome that you're getting to play again. That you have this sort of reason, sort of almost a gift from her uncle in a way to have asked you guys to play, and just for that reason of getting you back in the game.
Yeah,
it's really
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. It gave me another idea that there's a reality show to be made here called The Zaitses, and it's just embedding a camera crew with you and your sort of fun, dynamic, quirky, likable family, and the times that you guys are singing just naturally in your lives around fires and whatever, and then you'd be huge, beloved stars.
It's really funny. There is a documentary maker in town
There you
and
go.
she had just this was like 8 years ago. She just had finished working on one documentary, and she was in editing. And she when she met Katrina and I, she actually asked us. She's like, "I've been looking for a new subject. I think I might want to follow. Would you guys be interested?" And we were like, "No, no."
Oh, really? Maybe go back to the documentary maker in town and say that I demanded it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
That's
And I think we decided it was too
invasive.
yeah, I guess we weren't ready for it. I don't know that would be hard. It's just interesting to think of, like, all these people who are out there. You don't realize how much they've sacrificed to put themselves out there for the 5 minutes that you see of their lives. They probably have very, very little.
Well, listen, don't do it if you don't want to, but if you like the sound of touring the country and selling out shows all over the place to play your music, then maybe give it a try. Maybe give it a little try.
If you want to be happy, maybe, but if you don't like being happy,
I mean, if you don't like, achieving your dreams, maybe don't give it a try.
Well, I probably will say that I was more, my interest was more piqued than Katrina's.
Right. That's partly why she would make such an
I think that is
incredible
one of the
subject.
main probably a big reason why she's so charming on stage, is because she's just not she is not jumping to be like, look at me.
She's like, she doesn't have any of that. Like me, please. Not that you do. I'm saying that we do. And on that note, shall we end broadcast?
And broadcast.
And broadcast.